Hey yo, peace, blessings, guys. How y'all doing today, man? Well, I'm about to pop the bubble. Today, guys, I want to talk about sex and Christianity, or Christianity and sex. Now, I know a lot of people have had mixed feelings about sex and Christianity, and to speak on both of those things is typically taboo, especially in church. I grew up in the church since I was a little girl. So I remember when I was coming up in the church as a small kid, they preached a lot on purity and abstaining and celibacy and waiting until you find the right person. Or not the right person, let me stop. Your spouse. That is biblically what they said is right. I know it's hard for a lot of people to abstain and stay celibate from sex because we are in these fleshly bodies. We're in this suit, and it has sensors, it has urges, it has desires. But there is a way to work through those things. And most of the things that people told me in the church was just don't have sex. Just wait till you're married to have sex. And a lot of people have had a lot of shame associated with sex when they fall short and have premarital sex. Now, I'm not here to bash anybody having sex. Sex is amazing. It's a beautiful thing. But I know sex outside of marriage can be, it can open up Pandora's box, man. It really can. So I think instead of churches shaming people and coming at sex as a fear-based thing, they should incorporate healthy sex practices inside of the church. Oof. I might have ruffled some feathers with this ideology, but hear me out. Let's say you're a person who grew up in the church and you hearing these messages on abstaining and celibacy and sex is sin and all of these things. What does that do to a person psychologically? Say, for instance, you want to have sex, or you come to a space in puberty where your hormones are changing, your body is waking up, you're having these feelings, emotions, all of these things are rolling through your body. What do? Some people repress it, some people suppress it. Some people, mostly PKs, tend to wow out because they've been so like, don't have sex. And that's why you hear about a lot of PKs falling short or being very promiscuous or very sexually active, and because the pressure of not having sex is hard on them, or they don't know, well, what do I do with my body? Because it's so shameful and fear-based is what you're preached. For a person who grew up in the church and who has been pure, I came into covenant when I was 13 years old at one of my childhood churches, and it was so messed up because I was in Sunday school Sunday school at 13, and the Sunday school teacher at one of my childhood churches posed the question to our Sunday school class: what is something that you're going to offer up or give to God? And I sat and pondered with the thought for a little while, and she kind of went down the line, and I said, I'm going to remain celibate. I'm going to save myself for marriage. And she just looked at me, and she was in disbelief. She was like, girl, you're not going to do that. And this is the Sunday school teacher. This is the Sunday school teacher. I made that vow at 13, hadn't done anything prior to 13. I'm a 13-year-old making this vow, and I have abstained and remained celibate until now at 30. A lot of people see me out and about with a wedding band on both of my fingers. I don't have one today, but typically I wear 2 wedding bands, and I have since I was a little girl. It was because I made that covenant. I told myself that that is something that I'm going to offer up to God. I'm going to remain celibate. I'm going to give that part of my fleshly desires over to my heavenly Father, and allow for him to send me my spouse. Now on my journey, you guys, I made up in my mind, I was like, by 30, man, I'll be married. I have my wife. What? And so by 30, I'll definitely be getting some. I turned 30. I'm still single. I'm still celibate. I'm like, fudge. It's not an easy thing. It's not, you know what I'm saying? But it was through taking the proper indoctrination in to realize that, yes, sex is something that is beautiful. It feels amazing. So I've heard it's something that is very enjoyable. Something that couples who are married should definitely have glorious sex. And I think when you get married, you should definitely have some glorious sex with your partner, with your spouse, with your husband, with your wife. I think it is amazing. It's going to be amazing whenever it happens, whenever God finally sends my wife. I cannot wait. But for people who feel shamed because they didn't remain abstinent or didn't remain celibate before they got married, and in a sense, as church folks would say, fall short or are sinners, they don't hold space and grace for people who are sexually active or who have been sexually active. And for that, I feel like a lot of people who have been sexually active is like, well, what do I do? How can I, especially if you want to be celibate after you've already had sex, like, how do I go about this? It was shouts out to Carlin Ross and Betty Dotson. I came across their YouTube page as a 19-year-old girl, well, young woman. And Betty Dotson was an amazing painter. She was a activist. She was a author. She wrote the memoir called Sex by Design. And watching her videos that are still up on YouTube, she was able to help me look at sex in a different way, because a lot of when I was growing up, there was a lot of shame associated with sex. And like, even my parents didn't really, they talked to us about sex. It was like, just don't do it. But we didn't really have a full conversation on sex. And because of that, we began to have unhealthy ideology surrounding it. You know what I'm saying? Because we were growing adults. We were human. We were fucking teens. So you're like, well, what do I do with all of this energy? The sacred energy, the sexual energy, this primal energy. And for a long time, it was it manifested in unhealthy ways. And I think that it's so beautiful that one of the pastors that I watched, Tim Ross, he's very open, along with Pastor Michael Todd. They're both very honest and open, humble, open, and transparent. They keep it hot. I love it. About having porn addictions. And I think that is something that is hard, because when you grew up in the church and you know God and you know sex is a thing, it's like, well, what do I do with this energy? So we like have to cover up watching porn, because it's like, well, I'm trying to remain pure and I want to have sex, but how do I flesh this energy? How do I align this energy? And so a lot of people will watch porn and masturbate, and I don't think masturbation is unhealthy. And for me, Betty Dotson really illuminated that to me. But masturbation becomes perverted when you couple it with pornography. When you couple pornography with masturbation, there is a portal that you open, because it's lustful. There is a desire there, and it misconstrues your ideas surrounding sex, because most porn isn't made it's inglorious, guys. Porn is inglorious, but people watch it every day. It's, I'm sure, $1 billion business. A lot of people do it, but it isn't what God's idea of sex was. But then again, a lot of people were like, well, you're a homosexual woman. Your idea for sex isn't biblically right either. But I'm like, bro, I'm abstaining from my wife. I've been abstaining since I was 13 years old. You have had how many sexual partners up until this point? Did you marry all of them? No? Okay, so let's call a spade a spade. My sex might be inglorious, but all of the people you had sex with before you found your wife, if you are married, or all of the people you had sex with before you found your husband, that was inglorious too. That was sinful too. That was you feeding your sinful nature too. And in that instance, I say, we all have a cross to bear and move forward from. Now, for me, as far as my salvation, is like, I've known I was saved or had God's covering. I gave my life to God a long time ago. I was a 4-year-old little girl when I was in the doctor's office saying, God's supposed to make hearts right. And this is when, I don't know if I put this video out first, but this is when I was having open heart surgery. I told the doctor, you mean to tell me God made something wrong with my heart and not my little sister Vinny's? When God makes hearts, he's supposed to make them right. I was 4 years old telling this to a cardiologist. So I already had God inside of my life. And it was when I turned 13, I had the consciousness and the willpower to say, you know what? I'm going to stand in truth because I believe God is the way, the life, and the truth. And I'm going to give that part of myself over to him. I already knew I was gay. I've known I was gay since I was a little girl. And shouts out to Touré Roberts. It was his talk, 5 Ways to Identifying Your Soulmate. It's a beautiful message, guys. I've watched it multiple times. But one of the things he told, he said inside of his talk was, people have one sexuality. One. And that might be controversial because like people are like, I'm bisexual. And it's like, okay. But in your heart of hearts, you know, I want to be with a woman or I want to be with a man. One. You know, the rest might be fleshly. But if you get down to the core of it, you know what your heart says and how you feel about a certain gender. And if you don't know, which I did, I waited, I abstained, I dated both men and women. I never had the connections with men that I have with women. It just was never there. I never looked at men in a romantic way. It was always weird. I love men as men. I love men as brothers, but I never wanted a full-blown relationship with a man because I'm like, bro, we looking for the same thing, bro. I cannot provide you what you're looking for because I in fact want that myself. So, I can't conform to the ideologies or the, that's what it is. I can't conform to what most men want in a woman, which is a submissive woman, not a dominant woman. Like some men, well, I like dominant and aggressive women. It's like, bro, I'm more of a bare-faced woman. I'm not gonna wear no heels. I wear slacks. I might wear hoop shorts. I'm gonna wear sweatpants. I'm not wearing a fucking skirt. I'm not wearing a fucking dress. I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'll cook sometimes. I clean all the time. But it's like, I don't have the divine, I'm a divine feminine, but I don't have the feminine qualities that most men want in a woman. And it's like, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, the hey, I was like, nah, bruh. It's just, I don't have the sexual attraction there. It's not me. I'm just more sexually attracted to women. I have always been. Even when I was a little girl, you know what I'm saying? Even when I was like in kindergarten, it wasn't like perverted, but I was like, you know what? Johnny's cool. But Jasmine, I just want to hug Jasmine all day long. That was my experience, guys. You know, I think a lot of people like, people aren't born gay. And I'm like, they are, bro. They are. I'm one of those people who are born gay. I've known I was gay all my life, but because I came up in a Baptist Christian church. That was my upbringing. I I kind of hid that part of my life because I think honestly, and I might piss off a few pastors with this, but I don't care. I had to sit through it for all of my childhood. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Like, that came a little later in Genesis. Apparently in Genesis, you can go to it today. In Genesis 1, chapter 1, verses 10, it says that God made them male and female. And then Adam and Eve came in after that. They proceeded that. So I'm like, who are these? You're not just finna speed bump. You're not just finna, who are those people? Because what was their dynamic? Because a person who, like me, who grew up knowing that I'm a gay woman, is like, this can't be. There are gay characters in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? There are. You know what I'm saying? And finding the freedom, another person who was a light on my journey and becoming comfortable with my sexuality was not only Torre with his messages on soulmates, and Betty Dotson about healthy sexual relationships, and Carlin Ross. They would have, I've never been to one of their workshops, but apparently they would have these beautiful vulva and yoni. Sounds freaky. I mean, hey, but it's the truth. They would have these workshops with women to basically build labia confidence, because not every woman's, looks the same. And like, a lot of women have shame because men are like, it's like, look, man, everybody's vulva is different. Just like all y'all penises is different. Every woman's vagina is different, and they all work differently too. That's why, that's another video. But those two people, and also it was, the composer for my dad's group, he put me on to a theologist named Bill Donahue. He has a whole section on homosexuality. And it was watching that and actually taking it in that I began to have a lot of freedom and become more comfortable with the ideology that God made people to be people. And I think religion separates a lot of people. It creates barriers. It's so many rules and regulations. And at the end of the day, guys, the formula for getting to the kingdom or realizing that God is the truth is through learning who Jesus Christ is and letting him as the Son illuminate truth to you. But God is love. At the end of it, if you don't know anything else about God, God is love. And if you know what love is, you know God. So for me, I think it's extremely important for people who are finding themselves. I am one of those people who encourages everyone to practice celibacy, to practice abstinence. I believe that our bodies are temples. I believe that sexuality and sex is sacred. I don't think that everyone should come into your sacred space. I don't think everyone should share in your intimate energy, because it's not just a 3D thing. Yes, it's hole in vagina, hole in penis and ass. People do their shit. But at the end of the day, you were designed, at least where God's design, his ultimate design for sex was for it to be glorious. For yes, it to be procreation. And we see if before Native Americans were, they did their thing and they were able to make it work as same-sex couples. A lot of people who were gender fluid were shamans. It's shouts out to the couple on Black Love for illuminating the document to me. I went through and read. I have to put it in the description. But what I'm saying, you are supposed to have sex with your spouse. And when you don't have sex with the person who isn't your spouse and you break up, that's why it is so hard to move forward, because you've not only connected with them physically, you've connected with them emotionally, and you've connected with them spiritually. That's where we get soul ties from. And soul ties are extremely hard to break. It's not impossible, but they are extremely hard to break. And that's why people keep going back to situations, because it's not just a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. So I would say, We have to do a better job inside of churches to preach on healthy sexual relationships, especially when people come into age. I think it should be introduced to us not as children, but maybe as teens or preteens when our hormones are changing. It shouldn't be from a viewpoint of damnation. It should be healthy, that it is something to look forward to. Your wedding night is something to look forward to. Sharing your energy is something to look forward to. Trusting God with providing your divine partner is something to look forward to get out of the way of a lot of the turmoil we come to as human beings because we can't deny our fleshly desires. And that's just the truth. That's the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because I have yet to experience a sexual relationship, and if anybody comes out the woodworks, I've had sex with you, you're fucking lying. I'm just gonna be honest with you. You are a fucking liar. You've never had me, because I've never given that to anyone. Because I was like, this right here, baby, this is a gift. This is a gift to be given to my spouse. So when I sing, baby, you know what I'm saying, all this love has been waiting for you by Elder Barge, I mean it. It's real shit. It really is. And it's just one of the few cuts I'm going to sing for my honey boo. It's just one. Because when I sing it, I actually mean it. And that's why, for me, I think sex is beautiful and it's something to look forward to. I think your spouse should be feeling like they are receiving a present. Now, I'm not going to say that people don't get married as virgins. You know what I'm saying? For me, I know I'm an anomaly. I know that I am a rarity, and that's why I have had a bit of a shield on me. The people are like, well, is she married? Is she not? It's like, yeah, I'm married. In the 5D, I know I'm married. I know my wife is out here. I just have yet to come into contact with her in this 3D dimensional plane. But in my heart and my soul, I'm already married. I know God has my wife. I know God has my wife. I don't know who she is. I haven't met her yet. I haven't. You know what I'm saying? But I know that he has her for me because I've stayed diligent and honest about my true pursuit of him and wanting to share that part of my life and my body and my soul and my spirit with my divine counterpart who God aligns me with. And that's a whole thing for a lot of people, like, well, how do I wait on God? And like a lot of people who are like, I can't continue to wait. And people get like weary in the wait, and people like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep fighting my flesh. I highly encourage you to check out Betty Dodson. If you are struggling with your sexuality, check out Torrey Roberts' message, along with Bill Donahue, along with the article I'm going to put inside of the description. But I think there's a lot of freedom in honestly talking about sex, especially in churches. And like, that might sound really taboo, but it's like, man, look, people are doing it behind closed doors, consensually and unconsensually. So I think if we illuminate the truth about how beautiful and glorious sex can be inside of marriage, we can really move forward as a culture. We can get rid ourselves of a lot of shame, a lot of deviant behaviors. If people just are honest with themselves about who they are, their sexualities, and are able to stand and firm in it as who they are, there will be a lot of freedom that people can have, man. So that's my video. I hope it helps some people. I'm going to be praying for you and your sexual journeys, your abstinent journeys, your celibate journeys, or if you are already sexually involved with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or your fiance. Because even when your fiancés, guys, y'all aren't married. You have the intent to marry, but you aren't married. You haven't allowed God to pull you both into covenant under his divine order and will. You haven't allowed you both to come to the altar and die and merge. That's what marriage is. Marriage isn't the big ass wedding. We turn up, we dance, we spend all this fucking money. It's cute for everybody else, but the real work in marriage starts at the altar. You are dying to self. When you go to the altar and you marry another person, it's not only about you anymore. You are going, the shit you could do before you weren't married, it changes. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to take in consideration another human being. And to be in a healthy and successful marriage, It's a dying to self. And like, people might, well, what the fuck do you know about it? Well, guys, my mom and my dad, they were married they were together for 41 years, married for 37. That's all I've ever known. That's all I've ever seen. A healthy, heteronormative marriage. A healthy, heteronormative marriage. That's what I grew up in. That was my day-to-day, my everyday. So I know what marriage looks like. The good, the bad, the ugly, all seasons. Winter, spring, summer, fall. I know what it looks like. How to coexist. How when my partner pissed me off, how do I deal with them? Or how do I not deal with them? And how to reconvene and love and move past the bull. And because at the core of core, I made this vow to you. And I know I love you. I chose you. You know what I'm saying? So I have some insight on it. I have never, been married. But I have a pretty fucking amazing blueprint, guys. I do. My mom and my dad, and before my mom passed, my mom and my dad were still madly in love. I have videos of them like dancing, and having a healthy sexual attraction, and really coexisting as loving husband and wife. I know what it looks like, man. So when I come into communion, or when God finally, Poppy, please bless your baby with her baby. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for when that day comes. But I'm not rushing God, because I know right now I'm in the preparation season. But when it goes down, for real, when I can put that one on, ooh, what? It goes down. But until such a time, it's okay to stay committed. It's okay to die to your flesh. It's okay to look at sex as something to be not desired, but something to be rewarded to you. Because sex is amazing, man. I ain't had none, but man, I just know it's gonna be fire. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, I'm talking about what I'm talking about. The real ones get it. Y'all hear me, baby. Appreciate y'all. Blessings. And y'all have a beautiful day, man. Love.